Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Kund Bihari, Radha Kund Bihari, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe.
Jaya Jagatnatha, Jaya Maganatha, Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra.
Jaya Shri Nakaji, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Shri Nakaji, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Srinathji, Jaya Balagopal, Jaya Srinathji, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Ram Sankirtana,
Jai.
Prabhupada ki,
Jai,
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our discussion today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome to this continued discussion of Chaitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila. Today we'll be discussing the first part of chapter 18, the first 111 verses of this beautiful chapter. So last week we discussed a little bit of an introduction to Sri Vrindavan Dham, the most wonderful place to relish pure devotional service and to charge and enthuse our process in devotional service. In discussing, I think we created some desire in our hearts to all go to Sri Vrindavan Dham. Who wants to go to Vrindavan Dham today? Today? Okay,
Me.
so many enthusiastic. So, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has presented us this Chaitanya Caritamrita, we get to relive and experience Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's journey through Vrindavan. So we said Vrindavan gets its name from Vrindadevi. Vrindadevi is an expansion from Srimati Radharani. And she performed great austerity and tapasya in this land of Vrindavan. And it was so pleasing to the Lord that he named the 12 forests of Vrindavan after her. And so she is the gatekeeper for all of us. By her mercy and the mercy of Srimati Radharani, one can enter Sri Vrindavan Dham. And we pray to her every day and worshipping Tulasi Devi, her expansion, Tulasi Devi being an expansion of Srimati Vrinda Devi, for entrance into Sri Vrindavan Dham, and the privilege to practice devotional service. It is a great privilege and a great opportunity for us to be able to practice, and it is by the mercy of Sri Vrinda Devi that we can approach. And she is the orchestrator, under the guidance of Purnamasi, all of the various activities of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, and making all the arrangements. We can say the transcendental event planner, so intelligently and amazingly arranging. And so we discussed that. And we also spoke about the Brahmana that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met at Krishna Janmashtand, and how it was his behavior that was very indicative of his great position as a devotee, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired to ask, where did you get this transcendental ecstasy from? And he, and his Brahmana replied, it is from my Guru, Srila Madhavendra Puri. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very pleased and offered his obeisances because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a disciple of one of Madhavendra Puri's disciples, Ishwara Puri, and thus this Brahmana and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Guru were godbrothers. And so we discussed how it is the behavior of a devotee that is indicative of their characteristics as a devotee. It is not by any other means. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing us that, and went as far as to take lunch in his house, though it may bring upon some criticism from others. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu honored him very, very nicely. So today we're discussing the first part of chapter 18. The title of the chapter is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit to Sri Vrindavan. So we said, who wants to go to Sri Vrindavan? I think everybody raised their hands. So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we get to visit Vrindavan through the eyes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll read several verses today. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So I thought we could read one of the early verses, text number 3 today. And we'll discuss today several topics. There's so many different places Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited, so we cannot discuss all of them. Although I pray someday we can have a detailed discussion on each and every one of the beautiful places that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited. And we could be in Vrindavan, visiting all these places and having beautiful katha. But today we'll discuss about Radhakund. As that is, we note the very first place that Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami discusses. So we'll discuss a little bit about that. We'll speak about a few of the other places that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited. And then we'll talk about the inner reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan. This question was asked last time, but we gave just a partial answer to leave the real full fruit for today's discussion. And we're going to discuss one of the inner reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, and a very special place that he went to. And then we're going to talk at the end about how we don't become fooled and consider a boat with some lanterns in the lake to be Krishna, and how our eyes can sometimes bewilder us. How seeing is not always believing. So it's very important, right in the middle of this chapter, a very wonderful exchange and instructive. So we'll discuss a few of those. So verse 3 of this chapter reads, Eyamate Mahaprabhu nachite nachite Arikrama Shivaya Haila Achambite. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in ecstasy, but when he arrived at Aritgram, his sense perception was awakened. Purport. Aritgram is also called Aristagram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that in the village Aristasura had been killed by Sri Krishna. While there he inquired about Radha Kund, but no one could tell him where it was. The Brahmana accompanying him could also not ascertain its whereabouts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could then understand that the holy places known as Radha Kund and Shyam Kund were at that time lost to everyone's vision. He therefore discovered Radha Kund and Shyama Kund, which are two reservoirs of water in two paddy fields. Although there was very little water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient and could understand that formerly these two ponds were called Sri Radha Kund and Shyama Kund. In this way, Radha Kund and Shyama Kund were discovered. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Nityanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadamayan Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsam Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Nindavaneshwari Vrishabhanuste Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschataya Chatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So as we discussed last time, we see Shri Vrindavan Dham by hearing. And so today we hopefully can see Shri Vrindavan Dham today by hearing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's wonderful visits. Shri Vrindavan Dham is the place of Krishna's eternal pastimes. It is a place where the winds always blow favorably. The sun shines never too much, never too little. The cloud cover is just perfect. The aromas in the air are filled with the smells of various flowers and rich soils. The sounds fill the eardrums of various birds chirping, bumblebees buzzing, peacocks cuckooing, and beautiful sounds. Everything is just perfect and beautiful and transcendental. The river waters are just perfectly cooling to the touch, but never cool for shivering. And the different resting places within Shri Vrindavan Dham afford the most wonderful opportunity for Krishna to enjoy with his devotees. And these very elaborate descriptions of Vrindavan are given in Brahma Samhita, in 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. The beauty after the autumn season is one of the beautiful chapters in the 10th canto that describes the very lovely nature of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So So there's a very beautiful and exquisite place. And so when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in Vrindavan, he began and commenced his parikrama. So after meeting with the Brahmana and having lunch, he stayed there for some time and then began to explore and to go to all of the holy places of the 12 forts of Vrindavan. He traveled to all 12 by foot. And he started this tradition that still is taking place today. Every year during the month of Kartik, there is a great parikrama. 30 days, devotees walk from Krishna Balaram temple to Mathura, to Dhruv Tila, to all the different places all around Vrindavan and come back over 30 days. Each night there's a beautiful campsite set up and like that from stop to stop. There is a parikrama that takes place. So this is following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who showed us how to experience Sri Vrindavan Dham. So there's a very beautiful experience. If anybody has a desire, they can desire to one day attend this very beautiful place and experience. So as we read in this verse, Radha Kund at this time was unknown to those of Vrindavan. And we can wonder, wow, we know from Nectar of Devotion that Radha Kund is the most potent place in the whole of creation. There is nowhere more potent to practice devotional service than at Radha Kund. This Kund is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani is herself. So as much Krishna has attraction for Radharani, this as dear Radha Kund is to Krishna. And that's Srila Prabhupada explains in the 11th purport to Nectar of Instruction that this very intimate attachment. And why? Because this Kund is Srimati Radharani's herself. She made it herself. As we know, the pastime, we won't discuss its appearance in interest of time today. But it's a very potent place of devotional service. How potent? In the 10th verse of this chapter, we see that it says that indeed Lord Krishna gives ecstatic love like that of Srimati Radharani to whoever bathes in that lake even once in his life. Wow. Who has greater love than Srimati Radharani? Nobody. And Krishna, and here it says, indeed, Krishna gives that love like that of Srimati Radharani to one who bathes in Radha Kund just once. How many of us want ecstatic love of Krishna? So how to get it? Bathing in Radha Kund. Just once it can happen. So this is the glorious potency. It is said that Krishna Prema is overflowing at Radha Kund. Right? And so, at once, one can awaken this Krishna Prema. This is the great benefit. But it was lost. Nobody knew where it was. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began to inquire. And he understood, wow, I must identify this. And so in the middle of a paddy field, there were two small ponds. And he began to take bath in them. There was very little water. And he was jumping in ecstasy and offering his obeisances. And the local nearby people are wondering, what's he doing? He's in the middle of some random field. Nobody has identified this as a holy place. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead, identified and established these two ponds as Radha Kund and Shama Kund. Most potent and most wonderful place for us to make advancement in the process of devotional service. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally uncovered these places. He actually instructed and will instruct in the coming chapters Rupa and Sanatana Goswami to go and unearth and re-establish all the principal places within Vrindavan. But Radha Kund and Sham Kund, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself established, showing to us its great, great importance. And so we can pray that someday we can go to Radha Kund and take a bath. And taking bath is also a little bit there's a practical application. by simply sprinkling water on one's head 3 times. It is understood that one takes bath in Sri Radha Kund. So during Kartik, at the appearance day of Radha Kund, we'll share some Radha Kund water with everyone, and we can take this and hope to awaken this love of God. So this is the great importance of Radha Kund, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established it for our benefit. So after establishing the place of Radha Kund, and again we could talk for much time on this one, but we'll continue on because we have spoken about it previously as well. But there he goes then to Govardhan, which is, Radha Kund is at the top of Govardhan. It's considered the eyes of Govardhan. Govardhan is in the shape of a peacock, and so Radha Kund and Shyam Kund are like the 2 eyes, so at the very tip. And then he made his way. And so in verse 16 we say, when the Lord saw Govardhan hill, he immediately offered obeisances. Falling down on the ground like a rod, he embraced one piece of rock from Govardhan hill and became mad. Why is he embracing a rock? Why is he embracing a rock and gone mad? You may wonder. Well, we know that Govardhan is non-different than Krishna himself. It is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and embraced Govardhan. We may see rock, but he was not embracing rock. He was embracing the Supreme Lord, his beloved Supreme Lord. And thus we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not step on the hill. This is very interesting. Now, some of you may be sitting, but I'm sitting cross-legged right now. Right? So one leg is touching the other part of my body. Do I have any concern about my feet touching another part of the body? What's the big deal? It's me. But this is Krishna not wanting to step on himself. Right? Why he should worry? It's Krishna himself. He could have raced up the hill. So why he didn't step on the hill? To show all of us. To show all of us that we should be very, very careful. And Srila Prabhupada instructed all the disciples, do not climb on top of Govardhan. Some go, different systems, beliefs, but we follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so though he had every right, he is Krishna himself. What is the fear of stepping on his own self? But he was showing all of us. So he just showed this mood. And we know there's a beautiful pastime of this sweet exchange between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and this Srinathji or Gopal Didi. That this was the deity that Sri Madhavendra Puri had discovered buried beneath the earth and very elaborately worshipped. He established a temple on top of Govardhan Hill. And it was being worshipped so exquisitely. And this deity was world famous by now because it came in the dream of Madhavendra Puri, and then it asked for Chandan and all these amazing things and all the famous Anuput festivals that were taking place. So this deity was very, very famous and very, very powerful and very beautiful. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had desire to have darshan of this deity. But he was not going to go to the top of the hill. So what does Gopal Didi did? He said, well, I'll come down and see him. And so the Supreme Lord arranged some potential threat to his safety, and thus the pujaris took him down off the hill and to a nearby village. And there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was able to have beautiful darshan for several days. Now we see that this is another very illustrative example for us. That when we take one step to Krishna, he takes thousands of steps to us. We sometimes wonder why this is not happening, why that's not happening. So actually, every step we take, Krishna is taking thousands of steps for us. He is the king of renunciation. One of his opulences is renunciation. In this pastime, he is renouncing his beautiful temple. his very opulent worship, his amazing offerings, to go into hiding, to be served in a very simple way, right? In somebody's house, there's not such a broad arrangements for such worship. But Krishna is willing to give all that up. He's even said, and Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami explains, that even he's hiding in bushes. Why? To meet his devotees. To meet his devotees. Krishna is so eager to see all of us. The question is, are we as eager to see him? Because if we are, yes, he'll even come down off a mountain to come see us out of his temple. He does every year in our Rath Yatra festival. He comes out of the temple to see those who are not yet interested to come see him inside the temple. And of course, to give us all the transcendental ecstasy of this festival. But in this pastime, we see that this deity was reciprocating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so sweetly and so wonderfully. And in verse 40 to 42, at the end, when he's ready to go back to his temple, the deity returned to the temple on his own. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked with the deity of Gopal, and he chanted and danced. A large and jubilant crowd of people also chanted the transcendental name of Krishna, Hari Hari. The Gopal deity then returned to his own temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the bottom of the hill. Can you imagine what an ecstatic experience that would be? Walking behind the deity of Gopal as he's returning home with an ecstatic kirtan. So wonderful. This also shows to us that these deities are not marble or stone or wood. That's what we see. But actually, they are fully Krishna himself. And deities can walk, they can talk, they eat, they dance, they do everything. Because they're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And like we have in the pastime of Shakshi Gopal, we see in this deity, this Srinathji, this Gopal deity, also exhibiting very beautiful pastimes. He also did this again later when Rupa and Sanatana Goswami come to Vrindavan. And they also, following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, did not enter upon the hill. And so the Gopal deity came down again and gave wonderful darshan to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And there we see an extraordinary assembly of devotees. And I was reading the verse and thought, wow, how amazing it would be. Rupa Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt, Lokanath Das Goswami, Bhugarpa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, so many exalted personalities. Imagine just being a fly on the wall in that assembly of devotees. How fortunate one would be. But all these extraordinary devotees have the same darshan. So when they say, oh, but he came down for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No, remember, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing to us the potency of devotional service. So let us not ever doubt. Will we ever see Krishna? Will Krishna ever talk to us? Will he ever get to? Yeah, absolutely. Unequivocally. By the process of great devotional service. So we see this wonderful pastime in this section of Chaitanya Caritamrita. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after having darshan, begins his parikrama. And he performs this parikrama of Govardhan. Actually, parikrama, going around and circumambulating Govardhan Hill, is one of the most auspicious things we do. If we go to Vrindavan, it is like one of the first, second, third things we should do. Take darshan of Prabhupada's Samadhi, take darshan of Krishna Balaram temple, and somehow pray to go and do Govardhan Parikrama. Because Govardhan Parikrama is very, very important. And so we see in verse 32, in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath in a lake called Manasa Ganga, and then he circumambulated Govardhan Hill. Krishna himself established this process of circumambulating Govardhan Hill. He himself took all of his family members, and they went on parikrama. It is one of the pujas, the yagyas, that Krishna himself personally established. And we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went and performed Govardhan Parikrama. And the 6 Goswamis, particularly Sanatana Goswami, would perform Govardhan Parikrama every day, even at a very advanced age in life. So we see the great importance, and if anyone has a chance to go to Vrindavan, they should dream and pray today that we can someday have a chance to do Govardhan Parikrama. A little bit of austerity is required, but it is very, very sweet. And don't doubt, even young children are able to complete it by the mercy of Srimati Radharani. It happens. So this Govardhan is very, very important in our devotional service. There's a beautiful verse explaining how Govardhan was serving the residents of Vrindavan in so many wonderful ways. And so this temple, this Govardhan Parikrama is established. Now we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visits this temple, this Haridev temple. You may have noted it. Actually, it's stated that one's parikrama is not complete until they have darshan of Haridev. So very important that when one performs Govardhan Parikrama, they take darshan of this very beautiful temple. This temple sits right next to the Manasi Ganga. And Manasi Ganga, just taking a side note for a second, has a very wonderful history. Nanda Baba once desired to take bath in Mother Ganges. So Krishna, being a young boy, knew that Ganga was quite far away. And he thought, no, father, you can't go away. I'll miss you, father. Child never wants to be separated from father. So Krishna manifested Ganga in Vrindavan. So ordinarily, there's no Ganga flowing in Vrindavan. But he manifested this Manasi Ganga, this beautiful lake, right at the base of Govardhan Hill. And here, many, many sweet pastimes took place between Krishna and Srimati Radharani and the gopis, including the rocking the boat pastime, where Krishna is, rocking the boat, pretending to be a boatman, and very, very sweet pastimes. And actually, in the appearance of Radhakund, the gopis were trying to bring water from this Manasi Ganga to Radhakund to fill their kund after refusing the waters from Shamakund. So this Manasi Ganga is a nice place. So we take darshan there, and from there, just a few minutes away up the alley, there's this Haridev temple. So this temple is one of the principal deities installed by Vrajanath, the great grandson of Krishna. So Krishna's son Pradyumna, his son Aniruddha, and Aniruddha's son is Vrajanath. Vrajanath was the only descendant of Krishna's dynasty who remained back, and he performed this service to establish very many important deities and temples to celebrate Lord Krishna's pastimes. And so he established this Haridev temple and this deity as establishing it in the temple as one of the principal places. It's considered one of the 4 main deities in all of Vrindavan. The others are Govinda Dev in Vrindavan, Dauji, Baladev in Mahavan, and Keshav Dev in Mathura. So this is very important. So Sanatana Goswami would offer obeisances and do his bhajan here in the temple, and then go for parikrama every day. So it's a very auspicious place. And this deity also is very sweet because the pastime of the deity appearing itself. One day, Srimati Radharani and the gopis were waiting for Krishna to come and meet them, and they were thinking that the gopis were starting intense separation from Krishna, and they began to chant Haridev, 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 and like this they were chanting, and their feelings intensified so much they were ready to almost leave their bodies. So intense separation they were feeling, and then suddenly Krishna appeared in this deity form of this 7-year-old boy, and he's holding over them like this, and he's holding his flute in his other hand. So left hand he's holding Govardhan, right hand he's holding the flute, and the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani and all the gopis became new bounds. It was so exquisite, and since then the Radharani and the gopis, they would come there every day and worship this Haridev Murti that Vrajanath would later establish. So it has a very sweet history and a very powerful place. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows us this by having nice pastimes there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visits many places on the way of his parikrama, but we don't have time to discuss all of them. Apologize for that. But after completing his parikrama, he came to Mathura. And there in Mathura, he was seeing big crowds. And he wanted to experience a little bit more of a solitary place. So he goes to Akrura Ghat. Akrura Ghat is a place that we'll discuss next week. Where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will experience some different pastimes. But this place was a little bit more quiet and more secluded place. And so he was staying there in Akrura Ghat. And we read in verse 78 now, very important, verse 75. So this is after, waking up after taking rest in Akrura Ghat. The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Vrindavan and took his bath at Chirgat. He then went to Tentulital, where he took rest. The tamarind tree named Tentulital was very old, having been there since the time of Lord Krishna's pastime. Beneath the tree was a very shiny platform. Since the river Yamuna flowed near Tentulital, a very cool breeze blew there. While there, the Lord saw the beauty of Vrindavan and the waters of the river Yamuna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sit beneath the old tamarind tree and chant the holy name of Krishna. At noon, he would return to Akrura Tirtha to take lunch. So every day, after he completed his parikrama, he stayed for about 1 month. And every day, he would walk to Vrindavan and he would chant his japa underneath this tree. And we know it today as Imlita. Maybe some of you have been to Imlita. So it's a very important place. And it epitomizes the intense love and separation between Radha and Krishna. So Radha Kund is a place of intense love between Krishna and Radha together. And Imlital is a place that epitomizes the mood in separation. And it is an extraordinary place to chant. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has gone chanting. Very excellent. But actually we see that Krishna went there to chant the names of Radharani. Radharani went there to chant the names of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going there every day chanting the names of both Radha and Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he went there in seclusion because he wanted to experience privately this very intense rasa of separation. Actually, the mood of separation from Krishna is more intense than when together. And while we externally see when Krishna left Vrindavan, he left the residents of Vrindavan in anguish. But actually he left to intensify their mood of love. This Vipralamba Seva, this Seva in separation, is far more intense than the Seva in union. Maybe we are experiencing this now in our own mini separation. We are separated from Shri Shri Radha Kunj Vihari, at least physically. We have separation from devotees. We have separation from things, and it intensifies our desire for it. So actually this mood in separation is very intense. And so the internal reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan was to experience this deep mood of separation at Ilita. Because from this point forward in his Leela, when he returns back to Jagannath Puri, he's going to begin the last stage of his Leela, this Antya Leela, and he is going to go into 18 years of intense private rasa of this separation from Krishna and great ecstasy. And he wanted to come to Vrindavan to specifically experience this mood, because he came to experience the mood of Srimati Radharani and her devotion. So let's hear what happened here. So Srimati Radharani when she was missing Krishna, when she was feeling separation from him, she would come to this place. She would come to this tamarind tree, Imlita. And it's a tree right on the banks of the river Yamuna, where the nice breeze was flowing. And there, she would just cry out to her beloved Krishna. And she would call out to Krishna in intense mood of separation. And her ecstasy would reach such extraordinary heights that in calling out, "Oh Krishna, oh Krishna, oh Krishna," her golden complexion would begin to turn into the color of a fresh monsoon cloud. This Shyama Sundar, this blackish, she would bring up this complexion of Krishna. So intense was her meditation and her chanting of the holy names of Krishna in this mood of separation. Krishna himself enjoyed this place. Actually, Imlitala was considered one of Radharani's favorite places in all of Vrindavan. This was like one of her most favorite places. So when Radharani left the Rasa dance, this Imlital is located in the Seva Kunj area. Actually, from a Krishna Balaram Mandir, just behind on the Parikrama mark, you can walk there. Very close. So in this area, when Radharani left the Rasa dance, Krishna went into extreme mood of separation from his beloved devotee. And so he went searching for her. And everywhere he looked, he couldn't find her. And so he comes to Imlita, thinking maybe she has come here, her favorite place. But when he shows up, appears there, she is nowhere to be seen. And so there, Krishna sits under this same tree. And he begins to call out to his beloved, Srimati Radharani, "O Radhe, O Radhe." And in extreme ecstasy, an intense mood of love, he was calling out to his beloved Srimati Radharani. And as he's calling out in this extreme mood, he turned, his complexion turned into a golden color in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Shyama Sundar was no longer Shyama Sundar. He was golden color. And as he turned golden, immediately Srimati Radharani and the gopis came. "Oh, Krishna, where has gone your beautiful blackish bluish hue? Where has it gone?" And Krishna explained, "Oh Radhe, I was missing you so deeply, and I've gone into this transcendental ecstasy." And Srimati Radharani was perplexed about this golden complexion. And he explained, "I was experiencing your mood of separation, and thus experienced this golden color." And then he goes on to explain, "Actually, I'll be coming in the age of Kali Yuga to experience your mood of love for me. I'll be coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I will be distributing this Krishna prema far and wide. So I again will bear this golden complexion, but not during this time." And he immediately regained his blackish complexion. So this pastime and interaction took place at Imlita. Very, very powerful place. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to experience this deep mood of separation. What is it that Radharani experiences in love with separation from me? How intense is that? Even Krishna himself could not understand that. So he comes here to experience it. And this is the inner reason why he comes to Vrindavan. Note, he didn't take residence anywhere else, all over Vrindavan. But every day he would come to Imlita and chant the holy names of the Lord. So we can pray that we can go one day. How many of us want to go to Imlita and chant the holy names of the Lord now? Yes. Right? This is the very potent places of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced that and was really, and from this point forward, as I mentioned, he went into this mood of this Vipralamba Seva. So when he returns to Jagannath Puri, he stays mostly in seclusion in Gambhira, and just the intimate associates are interacting with him. Sarvdhamana, Ramananda Rai, and a few others. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing this intense ecstasy of love. Sometimes when we read the symptoms of this Vipralamba, we think pain. Oh, they're in so much pain and difficulty. But actually it is an transcendental bliss like none other. And in Chaitanya Caritamrita, this Vipralamba Sevas, trying to understand how this seemingly pain can be happiness, is explained like when you put an ice cube on your skin, at some point it begins to burn. It feels like a burning sensation. How ice can feel like burning, you have to experience it to know. Like that, how this Vipralamba Seva can be extraordinary bliss, one has to experience it. And so this is actually the highest rasa of love. So now we'll conclude today's discussion with a very instructive and practical instruction. In verse 98, it reads, when the people saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually saw Krishna. But because they were following their own imperfect knowledge, they accepted the wrong thing as Krishna. At that time, Baladev Bhattacharya placed a request at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please give me permission to go see Lord Krishna directly. So in these verses we're seeing that people were mistakenly thought they were seeing Krishna, but they were not. And it's a very instructive lesson for us. So I want to read the purport of this in the next verse. So in the verse it says, the puzzled people who visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually seeing Lord Krishna, but they were mistaken in thinking that Lord Krishna had come to Kaliya Lake. They all said they had seen Krishna directly performing his pastimes on the hoods of the serpent Kaliya, and there were jewels on the Kaliya's hoods were blazing effulgent brilliantly. But because they were speculating with their imperfect knowledge, they saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ordinary being and a boatman's light on a lake as Krishna. One must see things as they are through the mercy of a spiritual master. Otherwise, if one tries to see Krishna directly, he may mistake an ordinary man for Krishna and Krishna for an ordinary man. Everyone has to see Krishna according to the verdict of the Vedic literatures, presented by the self-realized spiritual master. A sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev, the spiritual master. Unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. The incident of Kaliya Daha is very instructive for those eager to advance in Krishna consciousness. Are we all eager to advance in Krishna consciousness? Yes. And this instruction is very important. Prabhupada's statement here, unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. This is a very instructive statement Srila Prabhupada makes for us. This is the posted worthy statement of this section. Because even association, why? Now let's see in the next verse. When Balabhadra Bhattacharya asked to see Krishna at Kaliya Daha, Sri Chaitanya mercifully slapped him, saying, you are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool, being influenced by the statements of other fools. Purport. Maya is so strong that even a person like Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was constantly staying with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was influenced by the words of fools. He wanted to see Krishna directly by going to Kaliya Daha, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the original spiritual master, would not allow his servant to fall into such foolishness. He therefore chastised him, slapping him, just to bring him to the real sense of Krishna consciousness. Balabhadra Bhattacharya is with Krishna every day. But he thinks, I have to go to Kalyadaha to see Krishna. But what were these fools seeing? Simply a boat, a fisherman's boat in the middle of the night with some lanterns around the boat. And as it was rocking up and down, they thought, oh, that is Krishna dancing on Kalyana. We have seen Krishna, we have seen Krishna. And they came to tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like this. And Balabhadra Bhattacharya thinks, oh, Krishna's there? Can I go see? The beautiful activity of Balabhadra Bhattacharya is, what did he do? What did he do?
Ask.
He asked. He asked, can I go see? And what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? How many of us like to be slapped? Not literally, but figuratively. No hands go up. But actually, Prabhupada says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mercifully slapped him, saying, you are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool. How we can say mercifully slapped him? Because sometimes the spiritual master, the guru, has to chastise the disciple to protect them. To protect them from falling. Prabhupada says, Maya is so strong that even a great personality like Balabhadra Bhattacharya, let us not be foolish. Oh, how Balabhadra Bhattacharya could fall to such trap. No. The point is, if he could fall, what hope we have? Zero. Unless we take our knowledge and instructions from Guru. Then what is the chance of falling? Zero. Without it, the chance of succeeding? Zero. Why? Because Maya is so strong. We think seeing is believing. We think this, that, and the other. But we can become bewildered like that. All these persons were convinced they were seeing Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to explain why Krishna would appear in this age of Kali. Meaning, it is not in Shastra. And how foolish, how strong Maya is. Prabhupada says, one sees Krishna as an ordinary human being and sees an ordinary human being as Krishna. This is the power of Maya. But if one is receiving knowledge, not just being in association of Guru, right? As Prabhupada says, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master, one must become enlightened by that knowledge. And so, the very practical instruction, why Prabhupada says that this incident is very instructive for us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Because as we advance in Krishna consciousness, sometimes we start to think, I got this. I can see. I know. Early on, in the beginning, it's very easy. There's a blank slate. There's nothing on the piece of paper. But as we start to progress, sometimes the idea manifests. And so this pastime teaches us the great Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who is not a less devotee by any stretch, he's an extraordinary devotee. But this is what can happen. So, if we want to protect ourselves on the path of devotional service, we must remain not only in association, but acquiring knowledge. And the greatest of mercy that a guru can bestow upon us is not to glorify. That is not mercy, because that can lead to ego, which will lead to fall down. But the greatest of mercy is because a guru will only chastise one he loves. Mother and father, if the neighbor's child is not doing their homework, do they chastise them? No. But to their own child, yes. So when the spiritual master gives some corrective, yes, difficult to digest, difficult to take, painful in the heart, but it is a sign of utmost love. And Guru will do when he is convinced that the disciple can receive. That's also important. We must put ourselves and present ourselves in a position of full surrender to Guru. And then he will instruct freely, knowing even if he has to chastise, because the disciple is enthusiastic. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his great mercy. It may not feel like mercy initially, but we should relish it as such. There is no greater mercy. Just as when Pundarik Vidyanidhi was, mercifully, slapped by Lord Balaram, and he considered it his greatest of blessings. It is the greatest of opportunity. So let us not fall victim to this potential of following our own ideas, because what we see may not be reality. But if we see through the eyes of Guru, who is Tattva Darshinaha, who is already seen, then we are always protected. Always protected. Always protected. And Maya has no hope. No hope. But as soon as we veer out on our own, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. So, there are many other places that were discussed here. We didn't have time, like Bhavansar or Brahmakul and Chirgat, all these other places, but maybe sometime we can discuss. But any comments or realizations, discussion, questions?
Do we have to stop, Prabhu?
I don't know, that is all up to you. Let's see if we have any questions or comments. And we can discuss a few more for people who want to stay, and others can leave. But let's leave. Let's start with some questions and answers. Any discussion we have? Any realizations, desires that manifested?
Bhakta Corey
Yes.
online. Bhakta Corey Singleton asks, does this descendant have any surviving members of the lineage left in the world today? He's
No.
talking about.
So when Krishna himself appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has no descendants. Just as when Krishna appeared, the whole dynasty returned back home, with the exception of Brajana, who then left no descendants himself. So there are no descendants left.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I quick
Yes,
ask?
yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Pranam all Mr. Srila Prabhupada, for my beautiful, beautiful class. It's really, we don't want you to end. Keep going and you'll be here for all times. Today we were actually doing our reading and I wanted to find a verse, but in that, I think it was Krishna Das, if I'm not mistaken. He was actually a Grahastha, and he, during the Parikrama and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited other places, when he comes in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he becomes obviously very ecstatic and starts chanting, and then afterwards, though he is a Grahastha, he is leaving his family and he is going to be following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm just I don't know, to understand that generally I've seen always with the past tense of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been very stern and telling whoever needs to be a grihastha, he will specifically mention the ones he wants, they will go renounce things. So he's very specific on that. So this one, how leaving sannyasi, leaving the grihastha, so how do we as
we'll keep reading. We'll see that Krishnadas accompanies him up to Prayag, and then he returns home. So this is just a holiday excursion, bringing mercy, and it is also mercy because, as we know, whatever the husband does in devotional service, the family obtains 50% of the benefit. So, but it doesn't go the other way. It is a one-way street. So, it is mercy. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually will tell Krishnadas as they're leaving even Vrindavan to return home, but he allows them to continue a little bit further. But we don't see any, at least I'm familiar with, any further beyond Prayag, and he must return home. So, don't worry.
Yeah, okay. I was not aware of that. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So Bhakta Kori has a few more questions. So Maharaj Parikshit left descendants behind. He's asking if Maharaj Parikshit has left descendants behind.
Yes.
Okay. It's not showing up yet. Oh, what form did the 5 Pandavas take during Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas?
What form did they take?
Yes, did the 5 Pandavas?
There's some, Ramananda Roy is considered an expansion of Arjuna. They have different forms. They're also present here on the banks of Radhakund. There's the 5 Pandava trees. But, I don't remember offhand all the specific personalities that when they appeared with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And, yes?
Hare Krishna was very, very nice, and for a moment we felt that we already have it in Vrindavan. Yeah. So my question is, all the places you mentioned, Radhakund and all the different places, so all are in Vrindavan itself, or it's Vyasa, like in a different places?
Yeah, so there's the Mathura district is the whole. Then within that there are 12 forests of Vrindavan. And then there's actually one area called Vrindavan. One of the forests is also called Vrindavan. So all 12 forests are considered. So from what we consider the middle, like where the Krishna Balaram Mandir is, for example, the Govardhan, this is about 20 kilometers. To Imlitala is, 2 kilometers, very close by. Mathura is, 10, 12 kilometers. So everything is, within, that distance. Some places are, a little bit far, like Kamyavan is, quite far out there, or, some other places a little bit, maybe, 40, 50 kilometer type thing, but all within, that vicinity.
So even if we go, how do we know the significance of the place, or will somebody there to like kind of a what do you call it, a guide, or
Yeah, that's why when we go to Vrindavan, we have to hear about these places, because we may see something, but what is here we won't see, but we see by hearing. So when we go to Vrindavan, devotees will take us around and show us these different places and explain what happened in each of these places. So and our temple has a very nice facility where you can go any place, and they'll take, someone will come with you and explain everything, what is what. So that's the best way to see Vrindavan Dham, is to hear all the pastimes in each different place and understand. Because otherwise, if we go on our own, we'll be lost. We'll be lost. It's kind of like when I was pushed into an art museum once. I'm looking around like, I am lost. What is all this? I have no idea what I'm looking at. People say this is famous and important, so I guess I should think it's famous and important, but I have no idea. Just using a mundane example. But, so like that, to hear about this is what brings it to life.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Thank you for the class. The very nice, detailed places to visit to Vrindavan, and we hope and we pray that we are able to listen more from you about that, the questions that you said that we missed somehow. So maybe we'll make up someday for that as well.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare. Any other comments, discussion? Yes, something in line?
Madan Gaur Prabhu asked, Hare Krishna Prabhu, does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come in every Kali Yuga?
No. Does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come in every Kali Yuga? No, he only comes after Krishna appears in Dwapara Yuga. So Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma. So out of 994 Dwapara Yugas, he appears in only one of them. And in that appearance, immediately following Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears. But in the other 993, he does not. So he specifically comes in the 7th Manu, 28th Manvantara. So very prescribed. So that is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. Which is why we are so fortunate. Because Brahma's day is 4.3 billion years. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared just 500 years ago. So on the time scale, like just a millisecond ago in relation to Brahma's day. So we're very, very fortunate that all these places still, the Imli Tala is there, Radhakund by the great service of Raghunath Das Goswami is very, exquisitely presented, so we can go and have darshan and chant japa and do harinam. All these places have been, established because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent the Sat Goswamis, particularly Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, to establish all of these places and to make them available for all of us to make progress in devotional service. So I'm very lucky. Let us not waste this chance. Yes.
Bhakta Kori is asking, does Kalki appear during the same yuga that Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears?
Yes, he appears at the end of this Kali Yuga in roughly 427,000 years. He'll appear and wrap up this kalpa. Anything else?
Prabhuji, sorry, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Here right now you just mentioned how many billions of years are there in the Brahma. Out of that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared only 500 years ago. So how many billion years I would say?
4.32 billion years. But that's the day. So Brahma has 12 days of we call awake or creation, and then 12 hours of awake and 12 hours of rest. So during the 12 hours of rest, everything is dormant. So he actually appears once every 8.6 billion years, because the other nighttime there's nothing active. And the math is, take each of the yugas and add them up. They add up to 4.32 million years. And you multiply that by 994. There are 71 yuga cycles for each of the 14 manus. So 14 times 71 is 994. 994 times 4.32 million. That will get you the day is roughly 4.3 billion, just under that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That gives you just a glimpse of how much fortunate we are. We are not understanding the value of it.
Yeah, it's very, very fortunate that we can relish this while it's still potent. Because soon all of these places will be lost. In another 9,500 years, all of these places will be lost. They won't be gone, Just like Shamkun, Radhakun were never gone, but they were lost, they were unknown. So similarly, all these places that we are fortunate to know, they'll all be gone from our vision, but they'll still be there.
And this time when we are lost, there's nobody to come to unearth it again. No, nobody's coming, only Kalki will come. That's the end.
That's right.
Thank you.
So, any more discussion, or if not, maybe for those who want to say, we can at least discuss a few more places. Again, please do not feel obligated. It's quite late, so but there's several more places that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went. Maybe we'll focus, at least for today, on Govardhan and discuss the different places around Govardhan, since maybe we can desire very quickly to have the opportunity to do Govardhan Parikrama. So, and we'll focus on the ones at least are noted here. There are many others that are not noted here. So we talked about the Haridev Temple and Manasi Ganga. So those are important places that we discussed. Then we come to this place where Gopal deity came down the hill. This is in Aniur. And Aniur is the place where Lord Krishna instructed the residents of Vrindavan to perform the great Anukut ceremony. So when he stopped the Indra Yagya and established this worship of Govardhan, they came to the town or village of Aniur, and there Krishna established this huge Anukut festival that we celebrate every year on Govardhan Puja. And so the meaning of Aniur means give me more. Because after Giriraj was honoring all of the offerings, and these were like mountains of rice and lakes of sweet rice and sabjis and big boulder-sized pakoras and wonderful offerings, he was still hungry, and he was showing that he is non-different than Krishna. He was eating all these offerings, and he kept saying, Aniur, Aniur. So this town became known as Aniur. And we know after Krishna performed this Govardhan Puja, Lord Indra became very angry, and he began to shower heavy rains. And so Krishna performed the Govardhan, lifting of Govardhan pastime. After the completion of that pastime, Lord Indra understood the mistakes that he made, great mistakes that he made. And so he comes and performs, offers great prayers to Krishna. And then he offers Abhishek. And so he brought Airavata, his elephant, along with Mother Surabhi. And he is offering Abhishek to Krishna. And all of this Abhishek water is accumulated in Govindakund. So that's one of the places Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited, Govindakund. And this kund today is still there. And you take some water on your head, it is very, very auspicious. And just on the banks of Govindakund is Madhavendra-puri's Bhajan Kutir. So that is where Madhavendra-puri was doing his japa, and Krishna came in his dream. Krishna came himself to give him milk and instructed him upon where this Gopala deity was from. So all of this takes place in this area of Aniur. So there's one very auspicious place called Govindakund, and the auspicious place of Madhavendra-puri's Bhajan Kutir. There's also Brahma Kund that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to. So Brahma Kund also, when after stealing the cowherd boys and calves, Lord Brahma understood this in this Brahma Vimohan Leela, that the transcendental position of Krishna. So he then performs a similar offering in Abhishek, and so there's a very wonderful kund there called Brahma Kund, so that is also present. So like that, there are many places around Govardhan. We also hear about at the base of Nandagram, Nandishwar, is this Pavan Sarovar, this Lake Pavan, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and took bath. So this lake is very blissful, because once again Nanda Baba expressed a desire to go to Prayag to take bath at the Triveni, where the three rivers confluence come together. And so of course Krishna said, "Oh no, I cannot be without Father." So he said, "Father, you go tomorrow. You leave tomorrow. Tomorrow is the auspicious day of Akshaya Tritiya. So tomorrow you go and you begin your journey to Prayag." So Father said, "Okay," and Nanda Baba said, "Okay." So Nanda Baba the next day came down, and they would take bath in this sarovar every day. This was their bathing sarovar. So when he went to take bath, he saw the king of Prayag, the personality, the personification of this Triveni there. And he said, "Well, you're here," and he was taking bath in this Pavan Sarovar. And he says, "Why you are taking bath in this Pavan Sarovar?" He says, "I'm coming to rid myself of all the sins that people are depositing in my area." And he said, "This lake is so auspicious, it cleansed one of all their sins." And thus Nanda Baba said, "Oh, I don't have to go all the way to Prayag. The king of Prayag is coming here." So Krishna arranged this very wonderful experience. So Nanda Baba did not lost that desire and continued to take bath in this Pavan Sarovar. Also did Krishna and Balaram, and so you can go. And also a very, very sweet place. Nice banks are built, and you can sprinkle some water on your head, sort of like that. We see Chirgat. That is a place that Krishna was going to take bath on the way to Imlitala. So Chirgat is the place where Krishna, when after Kartik is the month of goddess Katyani, and so the gopis began to worship goddess Katyani to get Krishna as their husband, to get a good husband, but they wanted someone as great as Krishna as their husband. And so they began to perform a month-long endeavor of yagyas and sacrifices. And so they performed these, and towards the end of that, Krishna came to this area. At that time it was very secluded, and as we know, he climbed the Kadamba tree, and this tree is still there. This exact tree that he climbed is there, and as we know, he took the clothes of the gopis who were bathing. And of course, to understand this lila, we must understand that there is no material conception that can be applied, but to fulfill the desires of all of the gopis, he performed that pastime. It was very sweet, back and forth, where Krishna is teasing all of them. So this happens at Chirgat. And so, like that, there are many places that Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, but just a few more that we discuss. So maybe next time we'll discuss a few more after that. So. Okay. Any other questions or comments or discussion? Yeah.
Bhakta Kori is asking, is it true that Parshuram is still alive in an embodied state today?
He's not present here in this form. That pastime has been wrapped up, so that pastime is now complete. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Forgive me for going a little bit long today, and next week we'll discuss the second part of chapter 18. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare